welcome to the show.
And welcome back to another episode of the Astros Future podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Price, also known as Astros Future. You can find my work at AstrosFuture.com. Find me on X at AstrosFuture.
I'm your co-host, Kenny Van Doren.
Today we're joined by Astros 2024 fifth rounder, Cole Hertzler. How you doing, Cole?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Appreciate you taking some time to your off day to join us here.
Yeah, of course.
So you're starting your first fully healthy season this year. What's been working so well for you in Asheville so far?
Yeah, I am healthy now, which is good. Body's feeling good. All pitches are working so far in the season. Getting a lot of swing and miss. Able to get to 2 strikes pretty often so far. Pitches are working. That's the main thing.
So speaking of Asheville, and I know that just from talking to a lot of pitchers, that's a difficult place to pitch. I don't know how many games you've pitched in Asheville. I think maybe one this past week, opening week. But did you notice anything different there? Anything about the way the ball traveled? I mean, I know it's a real short porch, both in left and right, but just high walls.
I didn't notice too much. I noticed that some of the pitching metrics, like vertical break on the heater, was a little down just because it's higher elevation. But I only pitched there once, and they only had 1 hit ball in play, so couldn't really get much feel for how it flew out in the outfield. But so far, it's been well. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah.
Jimmy mentioned there that it's the first fully healthy season to start out. Can you kind of walk us through that forearm strain recovery in 2025 and what you kind of learned about yourself, to prepare yourself to build a lot of these innings, which, this year could be a career high for you in innings come August or September?
Yeah. I started the last year healthy, feeling good. I think mix of first pro season, going through a long spring training, and then also working on a new pitch, kind of rushing that a little bit led to what felt like a minor forearm strain at the beginning of the year. And it just kind of compounded throughout rehab, re-injured it in rehab, took a while to recover. And it was an unfortunate year just because it held me out for so long for something that didn't seem too major at the beginning. But I learned a lot about how to build up through the off season, how to keep healthy during season, throwing volume, stuff like that. So hopefully in the end it's for the best, even though I missed a good amount of the year last year. But I learned a lot. So I'm going to look in the positives.
So how would you say your arsenal has kind of evolved since joining the Astros? I know a lot of times Astros draft a pitcher and they may add pitches or take away pitches, but what does your pitch mix look like right now?
Right now, right now it is technically the same as college. It's the 4-pitch, 4-seam changeup, curveball, slider. But biggest difference is that all 4 of the pitches have just kind of gotten better since college. So technically it's the same ones, but they are better. Slider is much harder, has more consistent movement. Curveball is depthier. Changeup's about the same. 4-seam's a little harder, but also have better feel for them all. So they haven't added too much. They tried adding a sweeper last year, kind of banged up the forearm along with some other things. So we just kind of scratched that, went with the 4 for this year, and it's been working well.
So kind of looking at your arsenal, and from draft point to now, what has been like the biggest focus for, like, what pitch, I guess, have you focused on improving the most?
Biggest one was slider. So I throw like a short gyro slider for a higher arm slot. In college, I threw it somewhat, but it was probably my 4th pitch. Just threw it in there a little bit to get the hitters off balance. Now it is my pretty much go-to with righties. I've thrown it a lot harder now. So that was the biggest thing I worked on over the off season, was getting more velo on the slider, because to have a short slider, you got to throw it hard. So averaging above 86 is what I want on it. And we've been able to do that so far. So
going back to your time at Liberty and in college, I don't think a lot of people know this, but you were a 2-way player up until that junior season. Can you walk us through that decision to just become a full-time PO? And I mean, how big of a change was it for you just in preparation every single day?
Yeah, I went into college thinking I was going to be a hitter. No shot I was going to be a pitcher. Got to college freshman year, it was full of 24-year-olds on the team, so I didn't play really at all. I worked on both hitting and pitching still. Then sophomore year came around, I hit a lot more, but I also started pitching. And then towards the end of my sophomore year, I just started really flying with the pitching side of things, and it started to kind of outweigh my hitting ability. So then going into junior year, I wasn't really sure if I'd hit anymore. And then the fall came around, and I actually had probably the best fall hitting wise I've ever hit. So then it made me think maybe I could also hit. But then at the same time, when I'm hitting well, my pitching just kind of skyrocketed. So during the winter time when it was kind of off season, I talked to my coach and he said, whatever you want to do, I will hit you if you want to hit because you're one of the better hitters. But I understand that you have a big future in pitching. And I decided then that to take less strain off the back. I'm probably not getting drafted as a hitter at this point. I haven't hit all year and haven't hit all my career and to do it now. But that's when we kind of decided to stick with pitching, take less pressure off the body, and just focus on it.
So it's been a few years, but how do you think you would fare in the box right now if you had to get into a big league game?
I always say that I can strike myself out super easy. So I don't think I do very well. I could hit, if I got probably 10 at bats, I could probably hit one pretty far, maybe.
Do you get the chance to take any at bats or any pregame or mess around at all? Or they're like, hey, we don't want a pitcher getting hurt, so don't even pick up a bat.
They're too scared of the broken hands and all that goes into hitting now. But so I haven't swung in years, really. I've swung in the off season a little bit just for fun, but not really much.
So I guess building off that, I mean, it hasn't been too long since you were, hitting at the college level. How much has that kind of helped you recently at the mound of getting in the mind of a hitter? And has there ever been times where you're pitching up there and you're kind of thinking from the hitter's perspective as well?
Yeah, it's helped a lot, honestly. I know from my experience in college, like when I get to quick two strikes, I'm in trouble. Like no matter what, even if the pitcher isn't very good, if I have two strikes on me, I'm overthinking. I'm in the box and I have no idea what's coming. So it puts that into perspective when I'm out there. Also, if I get an early swing on a pitch that I kind of misexecuted, say I throw a curveball in the dirt and I get a poor swing, first strike. I remember back in those days when I made a bad decision hitting, I was just a mess for the rest of the bat. So I try to take advantage of times where I get helped out by the hitter. That happened a few times in my last outing. I got a few swings on pitches that shouldn't have gotten swings early in the bat, and it just helps me to put that in perspective and go and attack for the rest of the bat.
So going back to the draft process a couple of years ago, did you have much communication with the Astros prior to the draft?
I talked to a scout or two, and then I went to one of the camps at Fayetteville Stadium. It wasn't too much, honestly. I knew they were one of the teams that was pretty high on me, but yeah, I didn't know specifically that they were the ones that were going to be all over me come draft time, but it worked out that way.
When you go through that process as well, and talking to your agent, talking to your camp, did you kind of know ballparked a couple of rounds where you thought you would fall, and did it kind of fall into place what you were thinking, or I mean, what were some of those expectations just going into that weekend?
I knew somewhat. I knew it was going to be top 10. I didn't really know. On the great side, it could be third round. On the lower side, it could be later towards 10. We hoped for about what we got, though, and it worked out well. But you really don't know much until the day comes for exactly the round. But we were happy with what happened.
So just a quick look at the draft history of Liberty University, but it looks like there was another fifth rounder in 2022, and that's the highest someone from Liberty's been selected since 2004. Was a fourth rounder. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
Was it Mason Fluharty or who was it?
He was the one that was in 2022. In 2004, it was Jason Jones.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So we kind of like to kind of transition to some maybe what we would call or a little more fun questions, kind of get past the nuts and bolts. But we noticed you pitched in the same rotation as Trey Savage in high school. What was it like seeing him debut and make it to the World Series last year?
It was pretty cool to see a guy from the hometown going that far and doing that kind of stuff. It was a crazy story. His debut to postseason run, first 10 games were basically the biggest games you could overthrow in your life. So it was crazy to watch. It was cool to watch. But yeah, town was going nuts.
When Astros fans or just anyone who listens to this podcast think about Liberty, there's one name that comes to mind, and it was a player you actually probably never overlapped with Will Wagner. Did you ever know him through the recruiting process? Did you guys overlap if you ever visited? And I mean, what's kind of led to some of this kind of streak of Liberty pitchers, especially getting drafted by these MLB teams?
Yeah, I never talked to Will. I don't think I knew a lot about him from guys my freshman year who were good buddies with him, but we never ran into each other because he got drafted right before I showed up to campus that year. But yeah, I think that Liberty puts on a good, environment to just get better. They have a lot of great facilities, and they always hire good coaching staffs and pitching coaches. I had two different pitching coaches while I was at Liberty, but they both helped me a lot. So I think just the environment has helped a lot of guys really get better and then get into the draft and start their MLB careers. But yeah.
So I know it's early still in your professional career, but so far, what would you say has been your favorite jersey in the minors? I know sometimes teams roll out some really crazy, wacky jerseys, but has there been a favorite one you've been able to put on so far?
My last outing was Asheville had a Beer City jersey.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny because they had a beer cup on the hat too, overflowing. It was an interesting one because it's a big brewery town. So that was probably my favorite so far.
You'll get into like the Scooby-Doo ones or Harry Potter ones soon, probably too.
Sure.
We had Bryce Mayer on the podcast right before the start of the year. And of course, Bryce won 2025 Astros minor league pitcher of the year. And we said, give us a guy, that even not really calling their shot or putting a ceiling on them, but who's someone that could be in that same camp that could climb up the system pretty quickly. And he said you. And so we wanted to ask you, who's another guy that maybe we're not talking about enough right now that you've really liked from, your time in Asheville, or someone you've crossed paths with that's still in Fayetteville right now?
Yeah. There's a few guys that come to mind. Guys on my team currently that have really good stuff, Nolan DeVos, Parker Smith, Dylan Howard. Those guys, they definitely have good stuff, and they can show it, and they really have in spring training and so far some. One guy that has like off the chart stuff that is still like getting back into it is Ryan Fercucci. We're good buddies. So he has some of the craziest TrackMan data I've ever seen. And once he puts that together just in games for the first time in a long time, he's going to be a good one to watch out for sure.
So that kind of flows into my next question, and we like to ask pitchers this, but if there was one pitch you could take from a teammate that you've been with either in Asheville now or even last year, what pitch would it be and who would it be from?
Man, one pitch. Man, you put me on the spot. I think I don't have a sinker, so I'll take Parker Smith's sinker because I've never been able to throw that, obviously, from a high slot. But that'd be cool to have a sinker that moves like his.
Nice.
That's the arsenal.
Yeah. One more that we also like to ask pitchers. I think this is a fun one, and it's fun for Astros fans too. But in your time through spring training, instructs, whatever, backfields, working out, has there been a hitter that has been like man, this guy's the toughest guy that you've had to face in the Astros system?
This spring training was Bautista. He was a new sign for the Astros. He's with me here in Asheville this year. For whatever, he had one live at bats with me that he took me yard twice, consecutive bats, just opposite field. So far he's been the one on the backfields that just has been eating me up.
Awesome.
He's a good guy.
Well, Cole, I got one more before we let you go here. I know probably your main goal, I'm sure, for 2026 was probably to have a healthy season. Get out there, log some innings, have a healthy season. But is there any other goals that you kind of had personally for this season?
Yeah, like you said, obviously health wise, I want to be up the whole season, be pitching the whole season. Outside of that, I try to just focus on each day going in and doing what I can. I want to be promoted, obviously, like every guy here does. But I can't control that, obviously. So I'm thinking each start at a time. I want to strike out a lot of guys, and I want to walk as few as I can. And basically, that's one of the few things I can control. So having a good strikeout to walk ratio is a good answer for you, I guess.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you joining us. Like I said, taking some time out of your off day and hopping on here with us.
Yeah, of course. This was great. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. So if you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. As always, thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back for our next episode of the AstrosFuture podcast, covering your Astros in the minor league system.